Welcome everyone to NoDQ&A Video, the official Q&A video series of NoDQ.com. My name is Aaron Rift. I'm the owner of NoDQ.com. Today happens to be NoDQ's birthday, November 8th. It has been 27 years since I started what became NoDQ.com. Originally WWF-WCW.com. Then it became the mayhem.com. And then finally in 2003, NoDQ.com. Thank you all so much for your continued support of the website. Much love and appreciation to all of you. Let's talk some wrestling. I've been talking about WWE, AEW, TNA, and other promotions for many years now. No shortage of questions tonight. Thank you to everybody that emailed questions, and feel free to super chat a question. It will take priority if you send in a super chat, guaranteed to be answered on this very special stream celebrating 27 years of NoDQ.com. With that, let's get started. We'll dig right into the emails. First one is from Ian. He said, is Roman Reigns a lock to win the Royal Rumble and face CM Punk at WrestleMania 42? And is Brock Lesnar going to win the Chamber and face Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania 42? Everybody is speculating on WrestleMania. It's the WWE Super Bowl with Seth Rollins getting injured. That perhaps changes some plans for WrestleMania. I feel like we were leading towards Reigns versus Seth Rollins, but with Rollins out, that will change things. Now, before Rollins got hurt, I said my early prediction for the Royal Rumble was either Roman Reigns or CM Punk, and I stand by that. Although now that CM Punk is world champion, I don't see him losing until WrestleMania. So I really do think Roman Reigns is a strong favorite to win the Rumble. Brock Lesnar could be a possibility now. Look at the commercial for WrestleMania. It was Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, CM Punk, and Brock Lesnar. Makes me think those four are going to be in the main event matches. And of course, we got Gunther, who will be back. He'll be in the mix. Marshall had sent in an email which ties into this. He says, what do you think WrestleMania 42's main event will be for night 1 and night 2? I expect CM Punk to be in one of the main events, and Cody Rhodes will be in one of the main events, and then Roman Reigns will be facing most likely one of those guys. Then you got Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar could potentially be in a title match against Cody Rhodes or CM Punk, or he could end up facing Gunther, as I mentioned earlier. And what if Chris Jericho comes back? Where would he fit in with these matches? Before Rollins got hurt, I really think it was going to be some kind of combination with CM Punk, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, Brock Lesnar, Gunther, and I'm blanking on the last. But those guys, I was expecting them to be in the WrestleMania main event in some sort of combination. With Rollins out, could they do a triple threat? Of course, that's a possibility. I think Roman Reigns will definitely be going for one of the titles. It's just a matter of, will it be Roman Reigns versus CM Punk or Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes? And keep in mind, Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes, they're one apiece at WrestleMania. But also, I think fans would like to see Reigns versus Punk, just because we haven't gotten that singles match between those two guys. We had the triple threat last year. And also, what about Braun Breaker? Where does Breaker fit into this? Does he pull a shocker and win the Royal Rumble or Elimination Chamber and dethrone CM Punk at WrestleMania? There's a lot of possibilities, but I expect some sort of combination of those guys in the main event matches for WrestleMania. So thank you, Ian, and thank you Marshall. Now we got another potential monkey wrench in the WrestleMania main event matches. So Gino had sent in an email. He said, will Sami Zayn ever win a world title? And then Jeremy Dorsett said, what if Sami Zayn wins the 2026 Rumble? Which world championship would he challenge for? When the Royal Rumble was announced for Saudi Arabia, people were naturally thinking Sami Zayn to win the Royal Rumble. Although my fear is they're not going to push him in the top spot at WrestleMania. So I don't think it would be for Cody's title. Could it be Punk's title? I don't know, but I feel like Punk will be the actual closer of one of the WrestleMania nights. Sami Zayn feels more like a Jey Uso, where he could win the Royal Rumble, but if he wrestles for the title at WrestleMania, he's going to be in like the opening match or something like that. But Sami Zayn, they did tease him potentially winning the world title. He hasn't done it. WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia. We got Saturday night's main event in Montreal right before that. I could see Sami Zayn being pushed strongly for WrestleMania season, and maybe stronger now that Seth Rollins is out of action. It just depends on what they want to do with Gunther and Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, CM Punk, so on, and Chris Jericho if he does come back to WWE. So there's a lot of moving parts here. I do think Sami Zayn, to answer Gino's question, I do think Sami Zayn will be a world champion. I just don't know if it will be WrestleMania 42 or before that. It might have to be sometime later in the year, maybe another Saudi Arabia pay-per-view. Sami Zayn goes for the World Heavyweight title and wins it and has his feel-good moment. I just don't think it's going to happen at WrestleMania, just because of the fact that they're going to want to push their key guys, their Roman Reigns, their Brock Lesnar, CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, etc. And I'm just not sure how Sami Zayn fits in with that, but we'll see. Anything's possible. Things could definitely change. Who knows? Somebody could get hurt. Hopefully not. Rollins already went down, but anything's possible. Thank you for that, Jeremy. Thank you, Gino. And Sun had sent in an interesting question. I am going to need chat participation for this one because I'm a little bit stumped, I have to say. Sun says, name one female WWF/WWE star in every era that I thought would not be a big star during that era, but ended up becoming one in that era. It's hard to say, especially further back in history, because the women's division really wasn't pushed very strongly on TV. And I can't think of any female competitors that came in and I'm like, they're not going to be a star. I pretty much thought none of them were going to be a star because women's wrestling was not taken seriously. I guess for the Attitude Era, I might say Deborah McMichael. She was in WCW and didn't really do a whole lot. She was just standing around. She went to WWE and I thought, all right, big deal. She's just there as a manager for Jeff Jarrett. Not going to turn out to be much of anything. But then the whole puppies thing caught on and she got more over than I expected her to get in 1999. So I think Deborah would be my pick for that era. And then beyond that, I'm not really sure. I mean, looking in recent years, I would probably say Liv Morgan, because when she came in, she was with Enzo and Cass at first. And then, or was it Carmella? I forgot who was with them, but she came in, she was part of the Riot Squad. And I thought Ruby Riott was going to be the star of the group. It was the Riot Squad, and Liv Morgan was almost like the sidekick, but people really liked her and they were wanting to see her get pushed for years. and WWE never really did much with her. And then this last year or two, she really broke out. And I didn't expect her to become this level of superstar that she did. So Liv Morgan would definitely be my pick of the current era of women. And it was Carmella who was with Enzo and Big Cass. Carmella's probably another one that did better than I thought she would do. The Bella Twins, definitely when they started, I really didn't think they were going to go very far. And as it turns out, they left the company and then they came back and Nikki became the longest Divas champion. So Bella Twins would definitely be on the list of that period right before the women's revolution got cooking. And you could say AJ Lee too, like she was there. And when she first started, I didn't really think that she was going to go very far. And then she ended up becoming one of the biggest stars of that era in the women's division. In the chat room, I'm seeing Jacqueline mentioned. China was mentioned. See, I thought China had potential right out of the gate when she debuted. Trish, yeah, because again, they really weren't pushing the women very strongly. So when Trish came in, I'm like, okay, they're bringing in another model. You know, she'll have a year or two and then she'll be gone. And she ended up being one of the top stars. So I would say Trish is another good one too. Lita, I did think had some real potential from the get-go. And she did have success pretty much right out of the gate. Alexa Bliss was another comment in here. Yeah, I could see that too. You know, with her coming in at the beginning, she wasn't like one of the top ones. You know, you had your Charlotte, your Sasha, your Bayley, Becky. They were the ones that people thought were going to be the big stars, and Alexa was just kind of there, but she ended up being one of the bigger stars over the past decade. So yeah, she's another good one. Thank you guys for that. I appreciate it. Good topic, son. All right, let's get back to the emails. Gino said in an email, is it smarter to have any wrestlers who are now cleared to return at the Royal Rumble or bring them back sooner? Well, that really depends on what WWE can do as far as surprises in Saudi Arabia. The big issue is the traveling. It's not like you're in North America and wrestlers can take private cars or fly to a different city. Like in Saudi Arabia, they have less options, and it's going to be easier for people to be spotted in Saudi Arabia. Now, can they pull it off? They could probably find a way, but it might be a much more complicated process trying to sneak people into the country. Like I don't know how effective that process would be if they tried it. So it remains to be seen if we will get surprises for this year's Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia. And if they're going to struggle to do it, then yeah, I would definitely say bring back some people before then. If Chris Jericho's coming back to WWE, maybe you bring him back at the start of the year, and you could bring him back in Europe. They got this European tour coming up, and Jericho could show up there and he can officially enter the Rumble. Kind of like when Triple H returned in 2022 at the start of the year, 2002, not 22, 2002, when he came back from his injury on that first Raw at Madison Square Garden and announced himself for the Royal Rumble. They could do something similar like with that for Chris Jericho. So we'll see what happens with that. Thank you, Gino. Jeremy Dorset. Thank you, Jeremy. I appreciate the emails. Jeremy says, hey, Aaron, where do you see WrestleMania 44? Saudi Arabia again, Western Canada, or back in the States, New Orleans, Miami, or the United Kingdom? Great question. Listen, it ultimately depends on how much money Saudi Arabia wants to pay. If they offer what they're paying for 43, we very well could get 44 in Saudi Arabia. And I feel terrible for the cities that are owed WrestleMania. You know, New Orleans is on that list. Indianapolis is supposed to get a WrestleMania. I believe Minneapolis is supposed to get one as well. You got several cities that are lined up for WrestleMania, but if Saudi Arabia keeps offering the big bucks, tens of millions of dollars for a show, WWE can't really say no to that. They have this business relationship with them. I'd love to see WrestleMania in London or Paris, but not holding my breath on that one. I do not think Western Canada is getting a WrestleMania anytime soon, unless, again, it comes down to which city is willing to bid the most. If Vancouver pays out the money, then that would increase their chances and make a big bid for WrestleMania. It all comes down to the cities and how much they're willing to spend on WrestleMania. All right, we got an email here from Calvin Bowman. Shout out to Calvin. Much appreciation to Calvin. Calvin says, what was your favorite John Cena match from any WrestleMania and his favorite opponent that he stepped in the ring with? Well, favorite WrestleMania match would probably have to be WrestleMania 23 with Shawn Michaels. I think from a technical standpoint, that was his best WrestleMania match. I feel like he's had more middle of the road to lackluster matches at WrestleMania than a lot of top tier WWE stars. The Shawn Michaels one is a definite standout, one of his better ones, probably his better one, probably his best WrestleMania match that I can recall. Favorite opponent he stepped in the ring with, if we're just talking about a feud, Edge would definitely be up at the top of the list. I think that his feud with Randy Orton, I mean, he feuded with Orton multiple times over the years, so I could see that as a top contender. Edge, Randy Orton, CM Punk, of course, the pipe bomb, breaking the site back in 2011. Those would be my top three, so it's just a matter of your own personal preference. We got an email here from Marshall. Shout out to Marshall. Marshall says, do you think Chicago will ever get another WrestleMania? They have an outdoor stadium, right? I don't know if it has a retractable roof, but for any of you that live in Chicago or have been to Chicago, you know that March, April, it can still be pretty cold in Chicago. So if they can run a stadium that is indoors, which I don't know anything about sports. I don't live in Chicago, so I don't know. But I'm thinking the odds are unlikely just because there are so many other cities that are in the running and are supposed to be getting WrestleMania soon. 100 years, over the next 100 years, if WrestleMania is still a thing, will Chicago get one? Yes. I think there's a possibility. I know they have an outdoor stadium. I just didn't know if it had a roof or not that is retractable. But, according to Michael Wayne, they will have a new stadium by 2030. So I guess that's the answer. Maybe sometime in the next decade, 5, 10, 15 years from now, maybe we'll get it. It will happen eventually. It's just a matter of when, but probably not within the next 5 years. Let's just put it that way. I think it's safe to say nothing in the next 5 years or so. All right, back to the emails. Ian sent in this interesting question. He says, with another dry fall season for WWE, do you recall a year when the fall season for WWE was fun and did good numbers? Yes, and that would be the Attitude Era. That would be 1997. That would be 1998. That would be 99. And even 2000. I feel like after that, WWE started to not put a lot of stock into their end-of-the-year shows. But during their peak Attitude Era years, I mean, November, December had some really fun moments. Survivor Series had very memorable moments in the late 90s, and Armageddon had a couple of memorable shows during that period. But yeah, for the most part, I feel like the numbers have dropped. You got football. And really during the Attitude Era, that was like the one time where football was taking a hit because of wrestling. Like I think in 98, WWE and WCW, their combined number, I think, don't quote me on this, but I think that like 1 or 2 weeks they actually beat the NFL. I mean, it was combined, and they did get close to the NFL. I know that. Hasn't really happened since though. But yeah, that late 90s period, I would say, was the one time where WWE put on some great shows and their numbers held up despite being against football. All right, we got an email here from Gino. Gino says, is it a guarantee that a Hulk Hogan match, probably WrestleMania 3 versus Andre, is the Hall of Fame match this year? I think there's a very good chance of that. A lot of people were thinking that should have been the first match, although I stand by my opinion that Steve Austin versus Bret Hart was the right choice. I think that was the most important match as far as WWE's future business and really setting up the Attitude Era. As I mentioned on social media, Bret Hart, big part of the Attitude Era getting started, and that match was key. But yeah, since Hulk Hogan passed away, I think the chances of a Hogan match being featured is very strong, even stronger than it was before he passed. Could be Hogan and The Rock. They might potentially go with that, but I really think the first Hogan match should be the Andre match, because that really was an all-time legendary match. You know, WrestleMania, first time in a stadium, the 93,000 number, the body slam heard around the world. I think that should be the next match they pick, whether Hogan had passed away or not. We got this email here from Jeremy. Shout out to Jeremy. Jeremy says, hey, Aaron, do you think WWE has dropped the ball with the current brand split, if there is one? And do you think they should do a draft before or after WrestleMania 42? I definitely think they've dropped the ball with the current brand split, not really taking it seriously and not doing a new draft or lottery year to year. I mean, they haven't done one now in what, a year and a half, or at least a year and 2 months, something like that. I'm not even sure when the last one was. It's been a while, and they don't really take it seriously. I think they should do one before the year is over. I'd like them to do it in December and give us a reason to want to watch WWE programming in December. Do it in December, and then bam, new year, new rosters, and just make that the routine. Every year at the end, December, December 15th, whatever, December 20th, right before Christmas. Michael Wayne says it was April last year, so it's definitely been a while. It's overdue. I would do it the end of the year and then just start your new rosters in 2026 and have that be the yearly tradition, so people have something to look forward to in December. Shout out to Big G, who's in the chat. Matthew says SmackDown needs a draft, which I agree with. It's just long overdue. And I would like them to do an actual lottery where the picks are random. I don't like the Adam Pearce picked this guy as his first pick, and then Nick Aldis picked his guy as his first pick. I like it to be completely random in the storyline, so that way you don't have to have everybody argue, well, why did he pick this guy? Why did he pick that guy? It's just random. And even though we know it's not really random, but I think in the storyline it would just be easier to watch and more interesting. All right, we got one here from Calvin. Shout out to Calvin Bowman. Calvin says, what did you think of the Bragging Rights pay-per-view from 2009? It was fine. I don't really remember too much about it. I know Randy Orton and John Cena had their Iron Man match, and I would say that was the best match of the show. I don't really care about the bragging rights gimmick match. To me, it was not really meaningful. I mean, they called it bragging rights because nothing was on the line. It was just brand supremacy, blah, blah, blah. It was goofy. I didn't really care for it too much. The best thing about that show was the Batista heel turn on Rey Mysterio. That was tremendous. That was awesome. Highlight of that show. Love that Batista turn. Definitely one of my favorite heel turns in WWE history. You're supposed to be my friend. I love it. Great stuff. All right, we got this one here from Marshall. Shout out to Marshall Leonard. He says, what is your percentage chance of Edge being John Cena's final opponent, despite the rumors of Gunther being the final opponent? Your thoughts? 0%. Edge is under contract to AEW, probably for a while. Remember, he got hurt. He signed in 2023. I think it was a 3-4 year deal, maybe longer than that, and then he got hurt. So he's not going anywhere. No Adam Copeland. Unfortunately, WWE teased this idea that we might get somebody who doesn't work for the company in the tournament, and now people are going overboard with their predictions. Oh, maybe it's Adam Copeland. And they've brought up all sorts of names like Jericho, even though Jericho is still under contract until the end of the year. So I would say about 0% chance, unless Adam Copeland somehow got out of his contract in some sort of a major falling out with Tony Khan that we are unaware of. I would say it's about as close to 0 as possible. Gino sent in an email question. Shout out to Gino. Gino says, would you prefer John Cena winning or losing his final match? Would you prefer John Cena wrestling someone he has never wrestled or someone he has history with as his final match? I think it depends on who Cena's final opponent is. And as mentioned, Gunther seems to be the likely candidate, or the most likely candidate to be the final opponent, which I'm down with. I would like to see it be somebody Cena hasn't wrestled before. We already got to see him versus CM Punk and Randy Orton and AJ Styles. Like, I want to see somebody Cena hasn't mixed it up with. I like the idea of Gunther, although that leads to the question, should he win or lose? And I kind of would like to see Cena win his last match, but if it's against Gunther and Gunther's potentially facing Brock Lesnar at some point, I feel like Gunther has to win, and Gunther's coming off a loss at SummerSlam. So I really think Gunther has to beat Cena, but I don't want to see Cena lose his match. It's tough to say. It's not going to be in Boston, Cena's final match, which I guess could make Gunther winning soften the blow a little bit. It would really suck for Cena to lose in Boston for his last match, but if it's in Washington, D.C., maybe Cena finally taps out to Gunther. Who knows? I think Gunther is the right guy. I'm torn as to who should go over in that match. All right, we got this one from Jeremy. We got a couple left here. Jeremy says, what's next for Cody Rhodes as WWE champion? I feel like it's time for him to change up his look, maybe a heel turn in 6, but I fear if he goes heel, WWE will do the same thing, much like they did John Cena, and then he would be going back to a baby face by mid to late next year, going into spring 27 and WrestleMania 43 in Saudi Arabia. What are your thoughts? Cody Rhodes needs something. He's getting stale as champion. I do think it would be beneficial for him to be chasing for the title as opposed to being the champion. I would not mind a heel turn, but he has to be committed to it, and WWE would have to feel that they've gotten all the mileage out of him as a babyface that they could. I just don't see it happening. Again, he's like John Cena. I'll believe it when I see it, and they may end up turning him when it's too late, like they did with Cena. It depends too on the fans. If the fans keep cheering for Cody Rhodes, I think that they'll use that as an argument to not turn him. But if he starts getting booed more and more, that might convince them that it's time to pull the trigger and change things up with him. They also need to have the next guy ready. Like WWE could do the John Cena turn because they had Cody. Cody was the guy, the top baby face. They had their man. And they had Roman Reigns right there as well. And all these other guys that were hot. Jey Uso and LA Knight and CM Punk. WWE has no shortage of top baby faces. So they could turn Cody. They got enough guys that are over that they could make it work. He needs something. I agree completely with the idea that he needs some kind of a change, whether it's a heel turn, losing the title for a while, some sort of adversity, the whole him coming out there. So what do you want to talk about? Blah, blah, blah. It is getting stale at this point. All right, we got one more here from Gino, Mean Gino. He says, if you could change one thing about the current wrestling landscape, what would it be? The predictability. I think wrestling has gotten too predictable. Both WWE and AEW rely on their formulas. Their television show structure is essentially the same thing every week with very little variance. For WWE, you get your opening promo with Cody. Somebody interrupts him. They set up a match. You have a bunch of matches on the show. You get the outside interference, somebody on the apron. They get knocked off. You get the stupid baby faces, sometimes the stupid heels. You have your contract signings. You have your pull-apart brawls. And it's more or less the same thing every week. With AEW, it's just match after match after match. You might get a promo here and there. And they don't really have too much else going on week to week to make you really want to tune in. I think both companies need to shake it up and do some things different and take some chances. So when the viewers tune in, they don't know what's going to happen. They have no idea. You know, when they book Jon Moxley versus Roderick Strong, I mean, come on, Jon Moxley's winning. But of course, Roderick Strong has to put up a great fight for 15 minutes and it gets boring. Like it's Triple H versus Taka Michinoku from 2000 every match. Like I remember back in that era, Triple H had a competitive match with Taka Michinoku and people loved it. This was during the Attitude Era and they thought it was great that Taka held his own with Triple H and Triple H kind of put Taka over a little bit. And now that's every match. They have to put in the top guy versus the lower card guy, and the lower card guy goes head to head with him for 15 minutes, but it gets boring. And that's the problem with both shows. The routine, the same old routine gets boring. And both companies, I would like to see change things up in the new year. So on that note, I will go ahead and wrap up No DQ&A video. Thank you guys so much for watching No DQ&A video, going back to 2011 when I first started the video series. It's been going strong for many years, and I really do appreciate everybody that has watched and enjoyed No DQ&A video. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for coming on to the stream to celebrate 27 years. We got many more to come and some new ideas and new concepts coming to the site and the channel in 2026. Tell a friend about the channel. Stay tuned for what's next to come on the No DQ YouTube channel. Follow No DQ at NoDQ.com on social media outlets, including Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter/X. And follow me at Aaron Rift on social media platforms. Have a great night, everyone. Thank you for watching No DQ&A video. I hope you guys enjoyed the series. Take care. Say yes to NoDQ.com, and I'll see you around.